Okay, so we're here today with Tori Cushing, who is going to talk to us about basic formatting in Google Spreadsheets. So, Tori, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're just going to go over how to add in a simple chart, just like what we did in Excel last week, and how to add in a combination chart. We're going to do some special formatting on the combination chart, so instead of just being a line chart, it's also going to have the ability to have these little dots instead, and how to format that, and then also how to do some basic conditional formatting. So let's get started. I'm going to start the screen share. Woo, trippy. Okay, so here's what you're going to be able to do by the end of it. We're going to start in the raw data tab. So like I said before, we always have a raw data tab, something that we can go back to later if we mess everything up with formulas and formatting and everything like that. So in the raw data tab, I just have a normal export from Authority Labs, and it has all this extra data in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this because I already kind of know what I'm dealing with. So I do this by selecting an entire row. I do this by clicking on the little 20 right here and holding down the Shift key. And then I can select all of these rows and hit delete. So I did that by, I'm on a Mac, so I hold down Control. But you can just right click. Next I'm going to delete all the content in column A because I don't need the keyword ID, and I always use this column as a buffer. So I'm going to delete that and move this in just a little bit to have a little bit of buffer. Next I'm going to delete the grid lines, which is kind of huge for me. So I'm going to go up into View and deselect the grid lines option. Much prettier. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of select the first, well, basically my end goal is to have the top 15 keywords and be able to view their volume and their rankings over the past 3 months. So I did this by, when I took the Authority Labs export, I just made it for the 3 months, and I started on February 1st and ended it on May 1st. And I just selected the first date from each of those. So it gives you all the dates for those 3 months, and I just selected February 1st, March 1st, and April 1st. So you can see here. So I'm going to rename these just so that they can be a little bit more intuitive. So I'm going to change this to February rank, March rank, and April rank. This is just going to help later when I go to actually put these in a chart. Okay, so now I'm just going to add in a title. I'm going to say the date of the Hangout just to reference later. So May 14th, 2014. It automatically changes the formatting of this, and to change that, you can go up into this little More Formats option and change the date. So this is kind of what I do. Right now I'm just going to put in March. Another cool thing that I've kind of discovered in Google Docs is that when you kind of have the option of adding in an image, which is really cool because you can add it in from a URL, which isn't as easy to do in Excel. So I'm going to add in the image of the Google Hangout by just selecting this image link and going into Insert and Image. So you can upload an image or just add it in with a URL. So you can do this when you have your own reports. A lot of times it makes the report look a little bit more legit when you have a header image or some kind of title like that. But for me, it's just kind of to reference later that this was the 101 Wednesday that I was doing. But it's a cool little tip to bring back to your reports at home. Okay, so next I'm going to add in a filter to this table. So I do this by selecting all the data in this set, and I hold down Command or Control A, and it selects all that data. So it automatically finds all that data and just selects it for you. So if I hit Control A again, it would select the whole entire document, but I'm just going to hit it once to select this data in the table. Next, I'm going to go up into the toolbar and select the filter option.
Real quick, they're asking if we could zoom in.
Yeah.
So probably making the screen, that window smaller would help. Like double click or click and hold the corner. Then, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I hope it's better for you guys. I just hit Control plus to zoom in.
Screen share settings, you have to select that.
So here, you talking? Oh.
Okay, so now that we're all zoomed in, I hope it's looking better for you guys out there.
It's just that window to be the full window.
Okay.
All right, you're good.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, moving on. So in the filter option in the toolbar, you can just select this little filter icon and it'll filter your data for you. So it adds in these little options that you have. You can filter a whole bunch of different options throughout here. What I'm going to do is go to the volume and sort A to Z. So that's kind of confusing because it's not that intuitive. It's what it basically means by that is sort greatest to smallest, or smallest to largest. So I'm going to sort A to Z for the volume. And I'm also going to delete this engine column because it's really not necessary to have in there. So I'm just going to right click and hit the delete column. I know that this is for the Google rankings only, so that's just kind of a personal preference. So now I have the top 15 keywords. I'm actually going to switch it to the rankings for April. So you can see here how I can filter by all these different options just by hitting the filters icon. So now I have the top rankings for April, and I just kind of wanted to see how they performed over the past 3 months. So I'm going to select the top 15 keywords. And my kind of like theory or kind of process of how to select the top 15 is I can just go down here and click and drag. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, it'll start counting. So I can see here that it says count 15. So I know that DVD movies, that's my 15 count. So next I'm going to just delete the other rows because I really don't need them. I'm just going to take the top 15 keywords. So I do this by clicking on the 25 row and scrolling down to the bottom of the data set and holding down the shift key to select all of those rows. And then I'm just going to right click and delete those rows. So I can kind of zoom back up to my to my next value in the cell by hitting or holding down the control key and hitting the up arrow. And that'll take me all the way back up to all of my data. Okay, so now that we have that set up, we're just going to add in a simple bar graph. So I'm going to do this by hitting Control A again to select this data and inserting a chart. So here's kind of like your chart editor area. You have all these different options. Google Docs is really cool about how they give you the top 4 kind of recommended charts for your data. I'm going to select the bar chart, and I'm actually going to just select it for February, just so I don't have too much going on in there. I usually like to have different charts for the data so that doesn't get too convoluted. I feel like if you try to put too many values into one chart at once, it can get kind of confusing to the viewer. So this looks pretty to me. In here, I can kind of go from just the start area, and I can go over to the charts tab and select more charts. I can actually go to like the scatter charts and the column charts and the area charts. It's really fun to kind of mess around in here. There are just a whole lot of options. So next I'm going to go over to the Customize tab, which is to the far right. And I have a whole bunch of options to customize in here. There aren't as many options as Excel, but there's still a good amount, and you can definitely work with all the options. Right under here, I scroll down to the very bottom, and I can change the bar color. So I kind of want to make it formatted to the data series that or I guess formatted to my client. So I work at Authority Labs. I'm going to change it to orange and hit insert. So that's just kind of to show you how to add in a simple bar chart. Next, I'm going to show you guys how to do conditional formatting, which is really fun, really, really fun. I love working with conditional formatting. It's a great way to actually like show your data with different pretty colors. So it's a lot of fun for me, and it's very, very useful. I find it useful to actually show people color-wise, you know, how your rankings are doing. So I do this by selecting the data for February ranks. So I'm just going to select all of this, and I can kind of go into it one of two ways, or I guess even more ways, because kind of in Excel and they're over into Google Spreadsheets, there are a bunch of different options to how to get to really everything. But under here, under this little fill option for my cell fill, I have an option to go into conditional formatting, or I can go into the Format tab and hit Conditional Formatting. So that's kind of a more intuitive way to get in there, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so here I have the different rule options. And you have a whole bunch of different rules. Again, these options are kind of endless, but what I'm going to do is an in-between. So if the number is in between 0 and 5, I'm going to change the background color to a light green. So that the client knows that their ranking is doing well from 0 to 5. They're above the fold in Google, and their keyword is ranking pretty well. Next, I'm going to go and do is in between for 6 to 10. And I'm going to change this color to a yellow, so just like a light yellow. I like to keep it in the same kind of color range, so the same kind of lightness. And I'm going to do one more time with is in between, and I'm going to go from 11 to 20. Okay, and then this background color, I'm going to make it more of a red so that they're not doing as well. Whoops, okay, totally just added an extra row. If you want to delete a row, it's right over here on the right-hand side. There's a little X here. So yeah, so here I have all the conditional formatting. Pretty simple. You just say your conditions over here, and then the formatting over here, and then the range is what you want to edit. So I'm going to hit Save Rules. And here you can see that I have the different pretty colors for the different rankings. Okay, and to copy this this formatting over, I can select this data set and hit the Formatting Painter tool, which is a really, really cool tool. You can you have so many options with this tool. Basically, any formatting that you have, you can copy over by just hitting this, the little paint tool, and selecting the next set of data. So I can do this again, and it just copied over all that conditional formatting to the next 3 columns. And while we're here in the formatting and making things pretty options, I'm going to actually format this table. So to do this, it's not as intuitive as Excel because you kind of have to just format it yourself. I don't know why Google Spreadsheets doesn't have tables, but it bothers me. It only has this filtering option, and I usually add in the tables by just formatting the cells, so giving them some kind of outline. So I'm going to do this by selecting up in here in the same formatting bar that we've been in all day. I'm going to go to the borders, and I'm going to change the color to an orange. And then I can select all borders. So that gives you kind of a way to see your numbers more clearly. Next, I'm going to go in and format the header. So I'm going to make the background of this a darker orange and bold my text and make it white. So these are just kind of personal preferences. I mean, it looks very much like how Excel formats a table. I mean, that's kind of what I'm taking the formatting from. But it kind of, if you want to have a table around your data, this is the way to do it in Google Docs. And again, it's not as intuitive as Excel, but we work with what we got. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is put in a combination chart. So I'm going to do this by selecting the keyword, the volume, and the February ranking data. Then I'm going to go into Insert and add a chart. Okay, so you can see here how we have the same kind of charts as before. And I'm going to go up into the line chart, which is kind of odd for me because usually in Excel they have the combination chart area, but this combination chart is actually under the line options. Don't ask me why, it's just there. So if you go under line and hit the combo chart, then you can see that we have both of our data sets graphed on this chart. The bottom one is the rankings, and that's the line, and the columns are the volume. And we're going to change this up because that is not great to show. Okay, so you can also kind of resize your column chart by just dragging this border. So once you scroll over the border, you get this little tiny black arrow that's really hard to see, and you can readjust the size of it. Okay, so now that we've readjusted the size, it's a good size, we're going to add in a chart title. So we can just do this by adding in, let's say, rankings for February. Rankings and volume. So you want to give it an intuitive chart title. You don't just want to say, you know, chart 2. Giving it that kind of chart title will help other viewers who have come into your document be able to navigate more easily. It's just kind of a best practice, I guess. Okay, so next we're going to go into these series and we're going to edit them a little bit. To do this, we're going to hit this little drop-down arrow in the right-hand corner and do Advanced Edit. So under the Advanced Edit options, again, you have these different options. You could have edited the chart title from in here. You can change the color of the chart title. You can change a lot of different options throughout it. But the thing I want to change right now is going into the Data Series options and selecting the February rank. So right now it's on the same axis as the volume, which is why it's all the way down here at 0. So it's very, very hard to see, not intuitive at all. So what I'm going to do is go under axis and switch it to the right axis. There we go. That's a lot more intuitive. We can see where the rankings are a lot more easily. We can see that Buy Online is at a ranking of 2, and if we scroll over, it actually tells us exactly what the ranking is, which is a really cool little gadget that Excel doesn't have, or that you have to kind of go through a lot more options to get in Excel. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is actually change it from just a simple line to give it points instead. So I'm going to change the point size to, let's say, 10, and I'm going to change the line thickness to 0. So it doesn't have that option in the drop-down, but it's really easy to do by just typing it in the box. So I'm going to say 0 pixels and hit Enter. Okay, so I'm also, while I'm in here, I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to change it to, I'm actually going to keep this one red, and I'm going to change, excuse me, the volume to an orange. Keeping that kind of color consistency throughout the document is really helpful because it kind of gives that brand look to your data, and it just helps people kind of view it with more of a better taste in the mouth. Like, oh, this is set up really nice. Oh, pretty colors. Yeah, so now that we're in here, we can see that we have all the different rankings for our different keywords with the volumes and in a combination chart. So I'm just going to do some last minute kind of formatting things. If you select the actual chart area, you can move and resize it. And I'm going to resize this just a little bit because the keywords are kind of getting like a little bit cut off. And because I'm so zoomed into the document, I can't pull this all the way over, but if I were able to zoom out a little bit more, you'd be able to see that, actually, there we go. I like to keep the keywords as visible as possible because when they go all to the side like that, you kind of tilting your head and it makes it a little harder to see. So you can also edit a few different options in the chart by, I'm going to, well, see kind of like the, Well, you can change the position on just about anything in the chart. So I'm actually going to delete this axis title. And really, it's kind of personal preference at this point to see what you want to change in your chart and how you want to make it look pretty in your own way. So it's kind of like a creative liberty at this point. But yeah, so that's basically how you format a combination chart in Google Docs. And now you know how to do the conditional formatting and add in a bar graph and filter your data. So I really hope this was helpful. I know it's kind of a lot to throw at you, but that's kind of basically how you navigate through Google Docs and how it is very similar to Excel, but there are some minor limitations, which is expected because Google hasn't been doing this as long as Excel has. Yeah. Okay, let's switch this back. Oh, hey guys.
Thanks, Tori.
You're very welcome.
I didn't know most of that stuff, so you make me feel like I need to be more educated.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Okay, so why don't you tell everybody what you're going to be talking about next time?
Next time is going to be back to Excel. So this was kind of just like a little side segment. So if you're working in Google Spreadsheets and you're importing data and you need to have it in Google Spreadsheets because let's say you're working with a team that's all working in Google Docs, this was kind of for you. So you can go back and reference these things. And I know it's kind of a lot to throw at you guys. So this is why we're recording it, and it'll be available after in a blog post so you guys can watch it in slow-mo. But yeah, so this is kind of like for people who are working in Google Docs on a really regular basis. So we're going to switch back to Excel because it's kind of more the industry standard for data visualization. And what we're going to be doing in there is more conditional formatting. So more saying that these are the conditions, these are the kind of numbers that I want to focus on, and here's how I want to format them. So it's similar to formulas, but there are a lot of options in Excel. So let's say like if you wanted to show the ranking data, you could show a little arrow by those numbers. So you could say a green arrow for the rankings that are doing well, an orange arrow for the rankings that are like okay, and then a red arrow for the rankings that are, you know, on the down. So yeah, so all those different conditional formatting options are really, really awesome to visualize your data right by the numbers and just kind of catch your eye to see like, oh, most of my keywords are green, they're awesome, they're great, and then these ones are kind of not doing so well. So that's kind of like the use of it, but yeah, I love conditional formatting. It's a lot of fun. So we're going to be doing that next time.
Great. Well, we have a question for you on Twitter.
Sure, yeah.
Renell Smith wants to know what determines whether you choose to work in Excel or Google Spreadsheets.
Well, that's a good question. My go-to is Excel. There are more options in it. It's an easier more workable interface. I'm more familiar with it, but I would say that when I do go with Google Spreadsheets, it's more for like the simpler things and for things that I want to share with everybody. So I'm going to make this document available in the Google Post recap because it's awesome, and you guys can totally take it and play with it and customize it however you want. So that kind of option where it's like I want to share this easily with, you know, coworkers or with people who just want to view it, which is a great option for Google Spreadsheets. Also things that I update a lot, so like some personal organizational spreadsheets, like timesheets for work or like that kind of priority documents, I'll put those in Excel or in Google Spreadsheets. But for things that are more intense for Google or for data visualization, so things that have a whole bunch of charts in them, a whole bunch of graphs, things that I'm using a lot of formulas in, so like the more complex side, I keep that in Excel because there are just so many more options, and I think it's a lot more easier to work with.
Okay, cool. Well, if anybody wants to ask Tori anything after the Hangout, she is at Tori Cushing on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Okay. There you go. No grid lines. That's good.
Thanks. Okay. It's a big deal. Okay.
Well, thank you, Tori, for explaining all of this to us, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conditional formatting one, 2 weeks.
Okay, and I have to mention, because I've seen some talk on Twitter just for Authority Labs, they are tracking local ranking data. So if you haven't checked it out, check out Authority Labs. So anyway, thanks a lot, Tori, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching.
All right, bye.
Bye.